Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome, welcome. This is Iman One Radio, the new name for Radio Ramadan, alhamdulillah. My name is Yusuf Shafi, and you're listening to Yusuf and Company. It's our weekly show that we have every Ramadan and throughout the year now, inshallah, where we try to bring people from our community, people who can raise issues and concerns about the issues that affect us. And today we are blessed, inshallah. We've got, alhamdulillah, we've got our three sisters from Birmingham by the names of Sister Malaika, Sister Jawaria, and Sister Amina. The topic of conversation today, listeners, and please do feel free to contribute and phone in. Number is 01902 972 150, 07440 420 432. Topic of conversation today is all about deaf awareness. First of all, let's meet our guests. Sister Malaika, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, and thank you for letting me be on today's show. And my name is Malaika, as I've just said, and I'm the founder of Unlocking Potential, Deaf and Hearing. So what my organisation does is we held activities from both...
We'll come to that in just a bit. Let's first just get the introductions from our other good sisters, and then we'll come straight to you and you can tell us all about Unlocking Potential and the amazing work you're doing. And we've got Sister Jawaria. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, and thank you for having us. I'm from an organisation called Al-Muni Foundation.
Okay, excellent. Can I ask you, Sister Jawaria, if you can please put the mic closer to you, and then you can sit back a bit and relax. You seem to be leaning forward, and it's uncomfortable.
That's just because it's my it's the chair. I would have to adjust the chair, but it's okay.
No, but by all means, lift it closer to you, and we'll give it a sound. And then we've got Sister Amina as well. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sister Amina, and thank you for having me.
Excellent, good. So, and we've got Sister Jawaria and Amna from Community Deaf and Al Munir Foundation, which is based in Pakistan. We'll talk a little bit more with our listeners all about those organizations. Let's turn to Sister Malaika, who is very keen to tell us about Unlocking Potential. Bismillah.
Thank you. So I am from Unlocking Potential Deaf and Hearing, and what that essentially does is we hold activities for the deaf community as well as the hearing community. So we have done sports, from women's sports specifically. So we've done archery, we've done badminton and squash, and we also do social gatherings for the community, and that's open for anybody. And it's a nice way of getting everyone together essentially. And why we do it with the deaf and hearing is so that we can create an inclusive space. And it's all built from personal experiences. So this comes as a shock to most people, but I myself am hard of hearing. And when I was growing up, I sort of realised that there wasn't really a space where I felt like I could truly fit in. So the best thing to add to it is took initiative and created my own space. And that is where my organisation has formed, alhamdulillah, and I'm very grateful for the way for the journey we've done, because I've met amazing people that hopefully we can talk about more later.
Inshallah. So, and if either of Sisters Jawaria or Amna want to introduce Deaf Community Deaf and Al Munir Foundation.
Assalamu alaikum. So basically, I work for the organisation called Community Deaf, and what we do here is we specialise in the Islamic classes and deaf marriages, and also chaplaincy. We do family counselling, marriage counselling, and these are the services that we provide.
Okay.
And Al-Muni Foundation is a purpose-built school for deaf and special needs children in Pakistan, and that was founded over 25 years ago. And it was just a much-needed service. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into.
Brief overview.
It was. There was no services. There was a lot of abuse and mistreatment of those children with special needs, and the organisation was founded by my late father over 25 years ago. Where it was very difficult to convince even the parents of these children that they were worth educating. But alhamdulillah, we've had a very long journey, and we've got an established purpose-built school. We've also not just helped them in education, but also we've helped them in employment and marriages.
Alhamdulillah. Excellent. Good. Right, let's get to the bottom of what is the issue. So, deafness most people will be aware of, as in it's an impairment of your hearing. It's your inability to hear sounds. It affects what number of people in our communities? Is it a large number? Is it a very small number? Is it something which is hidden? For example, like Sister Malaika was saying, people don't realise and people are partially deaf or all the rest. But what's the extent of the problem?
Well, in terms of the Muslim
Sister,
community...
if you can get a bit closer to the mic, please.
Okay, sorry. Is that okay?
That's better.
Yeah. terms of the Muslim community in Britain, is that is the language. So for the deaf community, it doesn't matter where they come from. Their first language is English, whereas their family's background, especially their language, they have that communication barrier. So people who cannot speak English and they have difficulty in explaining or bringing up their children in terms of religion, culture. So this is where Community Deaf comes in, and this will be helping to teach not just the children themselves in terms of who they are and what they are, and also the parents and the families as well. So it's, from my understanding, it's all to do with the communication and it's the languages as well.
Okay, so we're looking to develop obviously communication for these people, but what's their numbers? Is it 1 in 1,000? Is it 5 in 1,000? Is it?
We don't really know the numbers, but we are looking at a minority community within a minority community. And like Malaika said, those services have been available for so long, but because the deaf population is so dispersed around the country, you won't just come across someone, or you won't just come across a service, or you won't just come across something unless you actually actively search for it. And in Malaika's case, she just had to create one. So, and we've been operating for such a long time, alhamdulillah, but even we still couldn't provide the kind of service that Malaika needed. So they have a wide range of needs, but we are looking at a minority within a minority.
And that obviously compounds the disadvantage from that point of view, because what we're looking at is, first of all, people who have got a problem with their deafness, then the ethnic minorities, and then within the ethnic minorities there may be another minority, which is there may be women, or there may be Muslim, and so there's lots of levels of, I suppose you would say it's discrimination or an inability to access services or be able to have services catered for you because of your uniqueness, because of the impact of that. And so from that point of view, I think the work that Unlocking Potential or Community Deaf are doing here within the Birmingham area is, I'm sure, very, very powerful. Have you got examples of particular, I'll go to Unlocking Potential first, have you got examples of particular activities you've done and the outcomes that you've achieved as a result of those?
Yeah, so the one that comes into mind is when we did a social gathering, and within this I remember going around, and it was a very simple conversation of just everyone taking one thing that they appreciate in their lives, and it was a very simple conversation which everyone just picked one thing. But with our communities as well, something what we face is that this is their only form of expressing themselves. So whilst we wanted everyone to just say one thing, essentially this one person had just completely just started going and telling us everything she was going through and how grateful she was to have this space, because it was the one place where she didn't feel like she needed to change and adapt. And I think for myself, I've always sort of witnessed the deaf community are catering to the hearing. When we go out, when we socialise, when we're working, it's us having to make the change, and it's not really much of the hearing people making that change. And I think that can come down to a lot of factors, whether it's awareness of the environment, whether it's the individual themselves being able to disclose that they have a disability themselves, like me. So I don't obviously go often and announce it, but when I do, you can see that sometimes some people's attitudes sort of put me off a little bit. Some are more accepting and some aren't. But essentially when we had done this gathering, it was just one little conversation, and it took me just that second to realise how truly we need the services that we do, how this space had really created a unique
Mashallah. Excellent. So and with regards to Community Deaf, are there examples of positive work you've done? I'm sure there must be loads, but
Yeah, we have been operating for such a long time. One of the most recent examples is the regular deaf Muslim marriage events that we have.
okay.
And alhamdulillah, we have had successes through there. So it's always, I think we've had about seven deaf Muslim marriage events, and sometimes people come to this event with expectations, not realising that even for a hearing person, looking for a potential partner is very, very, it can be demotivating at times. It can be quite difficult, especially when you have to do it yourself. And for the deaf community, it's not just looking for a partner, but it's trying to get your family to recognise that your culture is not their culture, you know. And so we've had success stories in the deaf Muslim marriage event, but it's not just that. We've had people come to the event and be surprised that such a community exists. So when you were saying about accessing deaf communities, there are people who don't know that services like this exist, And we had one individual in our last event who came just by chance. He just randomly heard about it. So he didn't come as a candidate, but he came as a guest. And
Did he find a wife?
he no, but we did motivate him to come as a candidate, and we did motivate him to start volunteering with us a little bit more. But
It would have been a lovely story if you'd said he just turned up.
He just turned up and
the
he
next
found
thing
someone.
you know,
No.
the love of his life was there, and they walked off into the sunset.
No, oh my gosh, I would love that. We were very encouraging because we did say you came as a guest, you should sit down, and we would facilitate that for you. But I think for him it was just a sudden shock to be surrounded by so many deaf people. So it was quite overwhelming for him. But I think we introduced him to Unlocking Potential. I hope he's contacted you. So that's what we have in terms of the deafness.
So in a sense, what we're looking at is not are these organisations Unlocking Potential and Community Deaf just supporting people obviously with their health impairment, their deafness impairment also, but they are supporting with their educational needs, but their social needs as well. There's actually a lot of effort going in towards making sure that they can be able to find their life partners, they're able to actually survive within and socialise with other people who are similarly affected. I'm sure that must change lives.
It
for
does.
a lot of people.
Yeah, I started with the Deafness in Marriage event, but it's much before that. It's between individuals and their own parents, individuals and their own siblings, and it's just prior to the marriage event, which after 20 years of working with the deaf community, it's something that we established about 7 years ago. Prior to that, we were just looking at building family relations with the deaf individual and their parents, with the deaf individual and their siblings, because there were cultural differences within a single household, which was causing issues and concerns for the deaf individuals.
And unfortunately, like many disabilities, it's a thing which our communities, it's not, I think that they lack understanding of, but they lack a willingness to do something about it. And learning our deen is obviously critical for us, and to be able to actually then learn how to read and pray your salah and read Quran and all of those things. And unfortunately, am I right in saying that a lot of families and a lot of communities will just ignore and neglect a child who is deaf because they don't think that they'll ever be able to get there, or they don't think they'll ever be able to understand. And our sister Amina, you've been doing a lot of work with education and of deen for children who are deaf. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that.
So basically, I started this, I think over 20 years now. We started off by a small class, and it started off by someone who approached my father, because my father, he's the Malay father, he was the one who opened up the school in Pakistan, Malay Foundation for the Deaf, and I have a deaf brother as well. And it all started off by that, so how to make a deaf person understand that his background, and also in terms of his deen, how to make them understand that, and because they have a lot of questions, there's a lot of difficulty ways of making them understanding, and what to do and why. So we had deaf people, families from the deaf background who approached us and asked for help, because again, with the language barrier, like I said before, is the English language. British Sign Language is from the English language, and the parents who do not know English, so they have the difficulty of teaching their children, so that's where we step in and we help those families as well. Again, it's like what Sister Joya said, we started off by helping building families together, being together, making them stick together and understand one another as well. It's all to do with understanding and communicate. And from understanding, it also is to do with communication. So.
I don't think there's neglect. I think it's just limited understanding.
It's just limited understanding, yeah.
So we wouldn't go as far as saying that they are neglecting the children, but they lose hope. They're in a situation where they think, where can we turn to?
Alhamdulillah, we're in a country that provides a lot of resources for deaf children and deaf parents. So parents are quite active in finding support for their deaf children, and that's how they do seek it out. But a lot of misunderstanding and communication does occur, because Amna can tell you more that deaf culture is very, very different to British culture. and a lot of parents are immigrants who don't even speak English. So we do have a conflict of cultures, and that's where the problems arise. So it's not, there's no negative intentions. It's just situational.
And of course, there's a lack of resources as well, and that has an impact directly on what certain services can be provided. Just looking more broadly, then, our masjids in the UK, to what extent are they, number one, aware, and to what extent would you say they're actively trying to do something about, and not just deafness, actually, I'm thinking a plethora of different disabilities. How are they supportive to providing and catering for the needs of them? I mean, one of the things I often hear is, irrespective of ability or disability, just sisters themselves find that masjids are inaccessible. So just by being a woman, you're not able to have services and be able to benefit from what goes on in mosques. To what extent is that then exacerbated further with having issues and disabilities such as deafness? Whichever one of you.
I think that's your specialty.
In terms of for women, so basically this is where I can say that we have had women who come into the masjid, the deaf Muslim, they've come into the masjid, and they are actually inspired by this, because they didn't know that there was access for them to come into the masjid and get help for their children, as being a deaf mother herself. And
so which masjid is this, and is it one, or is it many, or is it?
well, I work in Birmingham Central Mosque. I work with
Okay.
them, and alhamdulillah, they have given me that support as well to come in and to do the deaf classes. And not only that, we do the I used to do the khutbah, interpreting for the khutbah as well, and also counselling, marriage counselling, family counselling, and it's all basically through interpreting. So whatever the masjid is providing for the deaf Muslim community, and it's all done through interpreting, and again these classes as well.
Mashallah.
Yeah.
So we've got an example there of a beacon. Birmingham Central Mosque, they are actually doing this, and they're active, and they understand the need, and they understand the importance of the work.
Yes,
And so they've empowered you to be able to give you a location and give you the time and the effective
I think it's us.
resource.
Yeah, but it started off with us having to approach the masjid,
yeah.
saying
Okay.
that we offer these services, but alhamdulillah, they've been very, very open to it. But just in terms of what you were saying about access and accessibility for the mosque, you are right. A lot of masjids don't even have women areas. I've had a few, because I travel a lot for work, and I've often needed places to pray, and I've had, I just knocked on the masjid doors where I'm like, I know this is only a male-only masjid, but I have nowhere to go. I am travelling. Can you just give me a corner? And I've been kicked out of masjids as well. So it's like, even though I didn't create a scene, I'm just standing on the door going, is there space for me? And I'm bombarded by people saying, no, leave. But it is, and that was very, very hurtful. And that was the time when I made the go, Ya Allah, please never close the door of a masjid to me again, because I remember that moment, and alhamdulillah, since then, I miraculously, every time, even when the masjid is closed, it's like, oh no sister, we're just about to open, and I just think, I was like, is it because that the one dua was accepted? But you are right, the masjids don't often cater for women because they have limited resources, and we have so many small areas. And if they have limited resources for women, they often have limited resources to cater for those with special needs, and especially the deaf community.
Okay. Sister Malaika, from your point of view, do you find this is a common problem, that the community resource we have in the form of masajid is not accessible to, number one, women, but to people with disabilities?
Yeah, so with my organisation, we haven't really done anything directly working with sort of religion and the deaf community, so we've always focused more on that social aspect for them. But I will say from personal experience, I agree with both sisters here, that as a woman, whenever I go to some mosque, it's a bit of a shame on how much investment has been spent on the men's side, and then unfortunately the women's side is barely anything, or like a small little corner. So if we just put the disability aside for a second, as a woman, I'm already like, okay, what is this inequality going on? And then if we were to factor in the deafness as well, sometimes it is hard to get by, because it'd be the most simplest things of like missing the azan because maybe you're doing wudu, which is a bit of a shame sometimes, or if you're completely bombarded with just people like like all the women trying to get a space, and rightfully so, but because it's such a tight space, it's really difficult. And for me, it did put me off sometimes as well. I would just see the state of the women area. Sometimes it'd be just jam packed, and I'm like, I'm better off just going praying at home.
Okay, so what extent? I mean, so in a sense, what we're saying here is we've got disadvantage from the point of view of the disability, and then we've got ethnic minorities, and then we've got language issues, and then on top of that we've got gender issues in male and female. To what extent do we then need to really start making some noise and shouting at people and saying, look, we are a community, we exist. In Birmingham, there are some organisations like Unlocking Potential and Community Deaf who are doing good things, but as far as I know, in Wolverhampton there's nothing. As far as I know, in Walsall there's nothing. Why is there this general level of disregard if it's not neglect? Why is there this general level of disregard? And how do you think, if there's listeners out there who are affected by this issue, what can they do in order to then make change to get some services set up? You guys set up your own organisations because you had members of your family, or yourself in your case, Malaika, where you were affected with hearing impairment. What can these individuals do in order to make effective change and to be able to actually get some services provided for them, so that they can benefit from the masajid, and they can actually develop learning of their deen, which is critical.
So awareness, really, more awareness workshops.
If I can actually please speak in the mic, because
sorry.
we're getting messages telling us that you're a little quiet, so get the mic closer to you, inshallah.
Is that okay?
That's better. So you were talking about awareness.
Yeah, so it's basically more awareness and support from the hearing community, but it's not support from the hearing community is as in they need to have the understanding and awareness and understand workshops. I think there should be more workshops for the hearing community to make them understand the deafness and the special needs, the backgrounds.
I think when these disabilities aren't visible to people, there are people who just don't know that they exist. And so awareness is one, education is another. Just talking about it, really. Anyone who listens to this radio show say, oh, I heard the radio today and they were talking about deafness. Talk about it in your own communities, and that's spread the word. When you spread the word, you raise awareness and education, and you have more people talking about it, because it does just everything starts with communication.
Of course.
I think I'm going to follow on from that as well. With myself as somebody who's in it, especially with Muslim sisters from the deaf community, I sort of got my confidence up to talk about my deafness, if only through my hijab, and because of the fact that it wasn't that I could hide it essentially, and that was something that had to come from me, was that acceptance. So the individual themselves has to accept the support that they can get. Otherwise, what good is the support if they can't accept it? And also the environment around them. For me, alhamdulillah, I've had a very good support network, and the support that I went to go look into, such as like working with the deaf community, such as the sisters that are here or going into the deaf spaces, that did open my mind. So if there's anyone listening who is potentially interested in finding more about deafness, I would say 100% learn on it, educate yourself, and then also try to get into the deaf spaces and try to just become more open to the idea of communicating with them or just being with them.
Good. Listeners, you're listening to Iman 1 on DAB. Alhamdulillah, we're talking about deaf awareness, and we're talking about how it impacts our Muslim communities here in the Midlands. We're coming up to a short break now, and after inshallah, after the short break, we'll continue to talk with our three sisters here about the whole issue. So please join us after this short break, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are Iman One Radio. You're listening live on DAB. My name is Yusuf and you're listening to a show called Yusuf and Company. Alhamdulillah, we've been talking in the first half of the show with three sisters who have come over from Birmingham, an organisation called Unblocking Potential. We've had Sister Malaika, Assalamu alaikum again after a break,
Walaikum salam.
and Sister Juwairi and Sister Amina, who are from Community Deaf and Al Munir Foundation. Assalamu alaikum again.
Islam.
So, listeners, before the break, we were just exploring the whole issue around deaf awareness and the disability and how it impacts certain people and the impact it has on their life, how it unfortunately results in a number of resources, a number of things not being available to them. In the second half, what we really want to focus on is solutions. These organisations have done absolute wealth amount of work, and excellent work in Birmingham, in trying to make sure that the people who they can engage with are served, are looked after, and their sports needs, their educational needs, their dini ta'lim, their social needs are, however, in whatever way, catered for. We want to really showcase these organisations because one of the things we're aware of is that, of course, local communities around the Midlands and around the whole of the UK and wherever people are listening are often not well equipped. They are often not able to actually provide facilities and provide an understanding of those facilities, of those services for their local deaf people. And so let's focus on how we can provide some solutions now in this half and what are the things that we can put into place and what has been done in other places in order to better support our deaf brothers and sisters and those with hearing impairments. So let's start off with Sister Amina. I know you want to also talk about the Al Munir Foundation as well. So talk a little bit, please, about what's been happening with Birmingham with the Al Munir Foundation, but also what you've done outside in Pakistan as well.
So basically, Community Deaf and Al Munir Foundation in Birmingham are working together. In terms of Al Munir Foundation, what we do is because it's a school, it's a built school in Pakistan for the deaf children and the special needs. So we're just working together in terms of classes, counselling, and also.
And has that been easy to set up there? Because I understand it was your father who set it up some years ago.
Yeah.
What was? Give us a little bit about the background. Where are you based in Pakistan for a start?
So we're based in an area called Mansehra in Pakistan. It's in the KPK region of Pakistan. And it was very, very difficult to set up because I remember 25 years ago when my father did attempt to set it up, it was people just didn't understand. They would go, these children are... And we've come across, so I apologise if anything that I say it's quite upsetting, but it did have a very upsetting beginning because the way these children were treated is quite unthinkable. So when my father did attempt to create the school, the first thing he did was go to the masjids and he started to give khutbahs about the importance of just treating people with disabilities with a bit of dignity and respect. Then, parents wouldn't agree because they said, look, this child is better off working in a field, bringing 100 rupees a day. What on earth are they going to bring if I send them to school? So we started off, look, we'll pay you to bring your child into school, but right now your child is in danger because if your child is lost, they'll have no way to write down their name, their address, or communicate how to get back home.
Of course.
There's this one story. So by that time I was a little bit older. When I say a little bit older, I think I must have been about 9 or 10, and a little boy came in, and we played together and everything. And I asked him, do you have any friends? And he goes, yeah, I do. He goes, I have a friend in the sky. And that was really upsetting because we're talking about deen education in a non-Muslim country. But over in Pakistan, it's a Muslim country and they have no concept of God. They have no concept of God, let alone who our prophet is, the 5 pillars of Islam, the 6 of Iman, whatever it is. They, and he just had a friend in the sky. I go, who's your friend in the sky? He goes, it's mine. Okay. And I go, does your friend have a name? It's mine. Okay. And he was, a lot of these children, we had to give them a lot of psychological support as well. We worked with local universities and their psychological departments because they came with bruises and, they suffered so much neglect. It was heartbreaking. And I have the images in my head, so I'm not going to tear up. But alhamdulillah, the school has come so far. When my late father passed away in 2023, I went to Pakistan, and my siblings and we held an event in the school just to showcase what he's done and his work, and we invited some of our old students. And just imagine a boy going, "Mine in the sky," came with his two children, his two boys, and his own tailoring shop, because when we educated him, we gave him the facilities to, start up shop as well, taught him how to sew. And he came with his two little boys, and he actually came with the same parents who once neglected him, and he's supporting them financially. So this is the kind of difference it makes.
Absolutely heart-touching story, and I'm sure lots of listeners out there will be...
add in, sorry.
Go on.
So basically you're talking about how Al-Money Foundation and Community Deaf are working together in this, and how we started off Al-Money Foundation. It started off by, again, I have a brother who is deaf, and my father saw that there was so much access for the deaf community in terms of education, medical, any other services that are provided in this country, but non-Islamic at that time. But then he came to the understanding that if this can happen here, and how children and deaf communities are neglected in Pakistan, this kind of service can be provided in Pakistan, and then obviously there's an approach that to be need.
If listeners want to support Al-Munir Foundation, how can they go about doing that?
Well, currently in Ramadan, we have a Launch Good link set up. Yeah. If you just type in Al-Munir Foundation Launch Good, hopefully we can come in then. We don't just support children in education, we support them in their livelihoods as well, and we also support in raising deaf awareness. We have a website, www.l-munir.org. Please remember the dash.
www.l-munir.org.
And if you want to contact us, it's info@l-munir.org as well.
info@l-munir.org.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. So inshallah, we'll if you want to get a pen and paper, listeners, please do so, because towards the end we will again, which is only actually in about 10 minutes now, we will be again putting out these websites and phone numbers and email addresses. So if you do want to support these foundations and these charities working out there in Pakistan and locally here in the Midlands as well, please do get your pen and paper ready for that. Excellent. Jazakallah, sisters. That's really good to know about the good work going on in Pakistan and the good work going on in here in Birmingham with Community Deaf and Al-Munir Foundation. Coming back to unlocking potential, give us examples of how you can support and how you can inspire others to think about maybe setting up something similar. So I'm really keen to hear your story about what made you set up, but keep it succinct because we're running out of time.
Of course. Well, after that story, honestly, I can't compare. So with my journey, how it came to be was essentially, like I mentioned at the start, it was all through personal experiences of being hard of hearing. So people sort of overlooked the fact that they couldn't really see a hearing aid, or they couldn't, like, I got told that I speak normally, so people were just like assuming that I could just be, without acknowledging the barriers that I'd face. So as I was growing up, I was very scared of disclosing my hearing loss to people, just because of the attitude that they would come across, or just feeling like it wasn't me, it was not, like, denying it. And eventually I came to myself, like, enough is enough, and I started getting older, and I started looking into, okay, well, what is the hearing loss? How can I actually support myself? Because when I'm growing up, I'd imagine that I need to disclose it if I'm going to work, if I'm going to have more friends, or, find more company. And through maturity, I came to accept my disability, so I came to accept my hearing loss. But there was an issue in the sense of I didn't know anyone else who was deaf, and I didn't know where to start looking. Alhamdulillah, I did manage to find a pathway, and it's how I also came across this and the beautiful sisters that are sitting next to me too. But for me, it was like there was nothing else that I knew, like no spaces for sports. There was nothing that felt like it was for me in terms of supporting with the hearing loss. So then eventually I started off just creating a small space for women to do badminton for the first time. And then I put a poster out. I was like, okay, let's just try it out, see how it goes. And I invited the deaf community and the hearing community, because as someone who's hard of hearing, I feel like I've always just sat in the middle. Didn't know where I belong, whether it was the hearing people or whether it was deaf people. So I just thought, let's create a space where it can just be anyone and everyone. And sports was a really great icebreaker at the start. And it worked. It was really amazing. A lot of people came, and a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't realize, like, a lot of hearing people as well, they kind of be like, I'm not really exposed to the deaf community as much. So for them, it was a shock that they can actually like see the deaf community for the first time. But the deaf community, they just had a space where they just felt welcomed. So it benefited everybody. And alhamdulillah, I thought, okay, well, how do I keep this going? Because it was just the one session. I was paying out my own pocket. I was like, I can't keep doing this, but I really want to keep it going. Eventually, I grew and we became a organization. And with this organization, I've actually been able to upskill others, but also carry on activities. So we've now just moved along from delivering badminton, and we've moved to other sports. We've done archery, we've done squash, but we've also managed to do just different activities. So that's coffee mornings, social gatherings, just carry on our activities depending on the needs of the community. So if someone comes up to me and says, I really want to try out cooking sessions, which we have done. It sounds so simple, but we overlook it as a hearing community because it's like something that's just a normal, you want to go cook or you can do it. But for the deaf community, it's that, well, they haven't had the chance to do the cooking sessions in school, probably because of the lack of facilities the school could give them, or it just wasn't available at that time. So just these simple little things that we take for granted, the deaf community, they desire it. So we've done a lot of different activities, and we've got more coming up in the
So
year
your community interest company, which is called Unlocking Potential, is based around Birmingham, and hopefully that will be a beacon to a lot of other people around the country, around our listeners, who can think, well, if we are feeling as though there's a need, and there clearly is a need for this type of service, they can try to emulate and try to reach out and try to learn how you did it. It couldn't have been easy though, and I'm sure likewise with yourself, sisters, sorting out, just the legal aspects of these organisations first of all, and then getting people together and getting committees, and then trying to find funding and trying to get a website up and all of those social media and all of these different things. What were the barriers and how were these barriers overcome? Maybe if we've just literally got a few minutes, so if you want to maybe Al Munir Foundation or...
I think you're right, it's the paperwork. It really is. It's it's not just about raising it, it's registering it with Companies House or registering it with the Charity Commission, sending your accounts every year, registering your information with the ICO and sending them accounts every year or sending your payments every year. There's a lot of financial aspects because you need to pay to send your accounts in every year. So I think finance could be a huge barrier in setting up an organisation. As Malaika said as well, it was something that almost prevented it. It was a huge barrier, and it just costs a lot to establish an organisation, and on top of that, keeping up with all the legal aspects, which is your confirmation statements on Company House, and it's a lot. You need to.
But we don't want to be putting our listeners off.
Oh no, of course. So the support there. I mean, we are happy to help. If anyone does contact us, and if they want to know how to set up their own organisation, and we've done this in the past as well. I know Sister Amina travels outside of Birmingham to set up workshops. So if there's the greater need outside, we're happy to support anyone and help anyone who wants to set up.
So and likewise for yourself, what were the barriers and how did you overcome them to set up your CIC?
So for me, I was actually learning when I was saying I'm still young, I'm still in my 20s, and so I took a big leap of faith of actually setting it up. I was very scared at the start, and like you were saying, it is a very tough journey and you can't really doubt yourself. So for me, it was that acceptance of, can I do it? So if anyone out there feels a little bit intimidated with all this information, I can promise you it will work out, and I'll use myself as an example, that it can, a simple idea. So for me, it was just trying to create that awareness. For me, my organization is based on the grounds of accepting. So we're creating a space that's just allowing people to just be. And what started off with a small idea has now, alhamdulillah, being able to be put in action.
Exactly. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. Inshallah, may all of these organizations grow, may they develop, may they actually provide more services and do even better. It sounds like you're doing an absolute amazing amount of work, and I'm sure the listeners out there who are listening to this are thinking how wonderful that we've got these people in our community who see problems and don't just sit there and complain like I do. I just sit here on the radio and complain. But they actually get up, they say, no, we're going to focus, we're going to try and achieve something, we're going to develop something, we're going to bring people together. And through that, you're changing lives. And Allah Ta'ala will give you Jazaa Khair for that. Allah Ta'ala give you the immense amount of reward and abundance for that. There are so few people, unfortunately, who have that social capital. And the fact that you do is amazing. And so I'm, on behalf of Iman One Radio, I'm really, really thankful that you guys are doing the good work you're doing. Al Munir Foundation, Unlocking Potential and Community Deaf, 3 organizations there which I think really need to be a beacon for the rest of the community, and so that people can focus and can think about how they can make change. And it's these little changes which make big change. And so hopefully our listeners are getting inspired by you. And we're coming up to the last 3 minutes. I didn't realize actually we got slightly shorter than the full hour, because we've got the Asr Azan coming up. So I want to give these last couple of minutes really to you guys and give you the opportunity to any departing comments, any sharing of contacts that you want to make. And from my side, thank you very much, and Jazakallah khair for attending Iman One Radio. So Sister Munir first, and so Sister Amina first,
Yes.
about the Al Munir Foundation first.
For Al Munir Foundation, you can contact, be in touch with Al Munir Foundation info at almunir dash. No, sorry, I'm getting it wrong myself. I'm so sorry. See, this is the reason why this is very difficult. Info at almunir dash.
info@al-munir.org.
Yes.
So the website is, we've just changed the domain recently, so please give me a
That's
few
the reason
days.
why I'm not getting
Yeah,
it right. because we've
please
changed
give
it,
a few days for the website to set up.
But you are also currently doing a campaign on Launch Good.
We are currently
Yeah.
doing
So
a campaign
if
on Launch
people
Good.
go onto Launch Good and just type in
Al Munir
Al
Foundation.
Munir, I'm sure,
Foundation.
or even Foundation, or just Al Munir, MUNIR,
Yeah,
people will hopefully search
Yeah.
you and be able to get you.
absolutely.
Good.
And in terms of community deaf, like Islamic classes or counselling or deaf marriages, you can contact through Birmingham Central Mosque,
Okay.
and they'll, yeah.
So alhamdulillah, a lot of people are able to access Birmingham Central Mosque, and
Yes.
then you can actually then get direct contact with our sisters here and be able to learn a lot more about the services, and hopefully they can support you, or they can inspire you to do things within your locality to actually set up a similar project yourself. And Sister Malaika?
Jazakallah khair for having me on. And yeah, with my organisation, the full name is Unlocking Potential Deaf and Hearing. It's just a long name, so we have to shorten it for today. But essentially, if you are looking into coming and like learning about the deaf community, you are more than welcome to attend any of our sessions by going on to our Instagram called Unlocking Potential Activities, or even emailing at unlockingpotential.dh@gmail.com. But we would love to have you guys on, and if you are interested, especially for the women, to get into sports, it is a very relaxed environment with our coaches are all qualified, female coaches, and yeah, inshallah, we would love to see you there.
Alhamdulillah. I think we need to clone you, sisters, and then bring you around to Walsall and Wolverhampton as well, and maybe all the other different locations, and so we can get the same services everywhere. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. This is Iman One Radio you're listening to, and inshallah we are here to educate, inspire, and we want to connect communities. We want people to learn about their deen, and through that we want people to be able to work towards bettering themselves. Alhamdulillah, we've had marvelous guests on today talking about deaf awareness. I will be back next week, inshallah, at Iman One, and I will be, inshallah, having some new guests on. Until then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This is Yusuf and company. Fi amanillah.